Hey everybody, it's Sneb. Long time no see on the YouTube lands for sure. I mean, streaming, I haven't been able to stream very much since starting my PhD in the fall, but I want to come in here and quickly talk a little bit about my thoughts on Wing 8 before it releases tomorrow. I, of course, like many of you, I'm quite excited. I think it's going to be a really interesting time. I think we don't know what a raid will look like 7 years after the last raid. We have no idea. Maybe it'll be something akin to what we've seen before. Maybe it'll be something completely new. Maybe it'll be more like strike missions. Maybe a little bit of both. I just wanted to say that I'm a little bit worried. And the reason I'm worried is because I think I'm hyping this up in my head a lot. I love raids so much in Guild Wars 2. And I am terrified that I'm going to be horribly disappointed. I think it's why I'm making this video right now. It's almost like a bit of therapy just in case. But I legitimately am a little bit scared that it's not going to be how I envision it to be. I just think it's going to be like the greatest thing ever, right? But we have a bit of a problem in the community. The problem is we just haven't had a lot of raids in a long time. Or just really any instance content in a long time. Janthier Wilds was fabulous. I absolutely loved the maps. I thought they were super fun. I thought the Titan meta was pretty fun when it first came out. But basically since like the third week of Janthier Wilds, I felt like things have really quieted down. There wasn't really anything repeatable to do other than the world boss, the Titan. I call it the meta. It's really just a world boss other than the Titan boss. And so I think a lot of people just kind of went to play some other games. Now I've been trying to raid a little bit recently, and I've raided with a few static teams. I've raided in pugs on both NA and EU. And it just feels like the average skill level of players is quite low right now. And by the way, that's no indictment. You don't have to be a really skilled player to enjoy the game or whatever. But I think people might be... I think people might be frustrated with a new raid, unless the raid is stupid easy. If the raid is super easy, then I think a lot of people will be annoyed that it's too easy. But then if it's too hard, I think it will just not appeal to anyone. So I feel like a normal mode raid should be fairly accessible for a majority of the community. Otherwise, what are they going to do? But perhaps that's why they have the whole convergence in place, because that's for the people who maybe aren't quite as hardcore or don't want to practice rotation or get a build or whatever. And that's perfectly fine too. But I'm so concerned that they're not going to find this happy medium and that we're going to get something that's either too hot, too cold, so to speak. Will we get the just right for raids? I don't know. And I can't help but think that the community that really loved raids and held on to hope for so long kind of let go during Soto. I know my community was extremely vibrant. We had sometimes 120 people all in Discord at the same time in various voice chats, running raids and doing all those sorts of things. And it's still pretty vibrant, but it's not quite what it was. I think over time, lots of people have taken breaks. They found other games to play. And overall, they're just less satisfied with Guild Wars 2 raids in general. And it's because they've just done them a million times. I think one of the biggest problems in Guild Wars 2 raiding is this idea that you're constantly doing non-consensual training. And I mean this in the nicest way possible. But because I've done thousands of hours of training, probably. I don't know. It's maybe a little bit of hyper. I've done a lot of training. I've done a lot. And I like training. I generally do. I'm an instructor, IRL. I teach. That's something that's important to me, something that I value. But I don't want to do that all the time. Sometimes I want to go in and just blast. But it seems like in Guild Wars 2, there's often this attitude that that's not how people should be, that it's easy enough that anybody should just be able to join any group and get carried through if they're not up to snuff. And over time, this has fatigued me to the point of actually not wanting to raid very much at all. I don't always want to carry a weaker player through, or I don't always want to teach someone how to do all of the mechanics. What I find is that a lot of the time I go into these groups and I end up doing 99% of the mechanics, or I end up tanking and healing and doing a mechanic and trying to back up and kind of maybe making it less of a chill experience than I want. When all the pressure is on a few players, there's a few pros and cons. The pros is that you can get through the content easier, perhaps, because all of the load is on a few players. But the con is that those players will eventually get really sick of doing that. And I think that's what's happened to me. And I generally believe that that's what's happened to a lot of people. They've gone in, they like the raids, they like raiding, but when they're constantly trying to teach new people to do the raids, because people don't generally stick around once they get legendary armor and they've got all the rewards they want to get, or they've completed all the raids and there's kind of a perceived lack of hope when it comes to receiving new raids, then people take off. So all these experienced players keep leaving, and then new players come in, you have to teach them. And at some point, that's no longer sustainable. You need to be able to retain the people that learn to do the raids, because otherwise you'll have this revolving door of people. And so it's my opinion that the average skill level has gone down a little bit, especially since something like End of Dragons. I know this seems silly, but there's been quite a bit of power creep. But End of Dragons, when Dragon's End happened, a lot of players were sort of forced to engage with a lot of the systems in the game, like gear, stats, etc. And they put on gear and became quite powerful. Meta events that took like 25 minutes before suddenly were taking 18. It's a pretty significant jump when you think about it. So yeah, it's a bit of an issue, I would say. And I just wanted to come on here and say, I really want this to be successful. And I really hope that all of you will look at the wing for what it is. It's an attempt at trying to recreate something that's a bit older in the game. So it has to have a bit of a new twist, has to appeal to a slightly different audience, because the demographic has changed since 2017 quite significantly. I'm just worried that people won't give it a shot. I'm worried that the community isn't quite ready for it. There aren't enough veteran raiders left in the game, and I'm worried that not a lot of people will return. There's something that really stuck with me. I think it was back in Secrets of the Obscure, or it was at the end. They were just releasing the Harvest Temple CM or something. I reached out to a few people to see if they wanted to make a team. And because a bunch of my friends had gone to play Final Fantasy, and one of the people I messaged, they said, why would I come back for one fight when I can stay here and have 30? And I've never forgotten that, because now whenever I think about content coming out for Guild Wars 2, I'm worried that it's not enough, especially when it comes to instance content. One raid is not enough to keep the attention of raiders. And I think people are realizing that they can go play an MMO that specializes in that, like Final Fantasy or World of Warcraft, and be super happy with what's going on. So where does this leave us? What am I trying to say here? A couple things. I'm a little bit anxious about what could happen tomorrow. I'm also a little bit excited, and I really want to enjoy it. And I think there's going to be a lot of people that want to hate it. And I refuse to be that person. Even if it's horrible tomorrow, I want to give it every bit of credit that I can, even if there's bugs, even if it's not perfect. In my view, they did a raid not because I think they thought it would make a lot of money. I think they honestly did a raid as kind of a tip of the hat to the community. I really don't think that raids are even close to popular in Guild Wars 2. I think they're probably one of the least popular game modes. In fact, I think that's been spoken about by some of the devs. So really, I just view this as like a favor to us, the raiding community. And I'm going to take it as such. Even if it's not perfect, I'm grateful that we got something. Anyways, folks, that's about it for me. I hope you enjoyed this somewhat different video of me just kind of rambling, talking about things. But I hope you're doing well. Of course, like and subscribe, hit all those buttons and whatever. Grateful for all of you. And you know what? Catch me on Twitch, probably at least for a little bit tomorrow, and definitely on Wednesday. I've got some coursework this week, so I have to pay attention to that, but I'll do my best to get in there. So thanks for watching. Bye.